stripped down and put to another use. Shell cases are another big item of salvage. Ordnance retrieving parties pick up the piles of used shell cases from gun emplacements all along the front line and take them to a central dump. Korean labor is used to do the work wherever possible, and they wear special wooden harnesses to carry the heavy loads on their backs. The Signal Corps also carries on its conservation program in behalf of the American taxpayer and rehabilitates its old cable for reuse time and time again. In an 8-month period, approximately $1 million was saved by rehabilitating cable which is now being reused in the war zones. In the States, the drive toward economy and salvage continues. Russian tanks captured in Korea are hauled from the scrapyard and are cut up in readiness for being melted down. Out of these Russian and Japanese tanks, new weapons are being forged for United Nations troops. The Army's preventive maintenance program, begun after World War II, is today paying off in more dollars saved. The Letterkenny Ordnance Depot in Pennsylvania is one of the Army's large storage areas where surplus vehicles are kept fighting fit. Tanks and combat vehicles, surplus after the last war, have been successfully stored for 6 years in special dehumidified cans. The Army had this equipment in storage when the Korean conflict began, but it was a battle of time. It would have taken months to ship this equipment to the battle area. Operation Roll-Up, a time saver as well as a money saver, filled the gap until we could get equipment out of storage and on its way to Korea. Stored in a ready-to-roll condition, the vehicles are all set to be dispatched. They can be preserved for years while stored in the humidity-free cans. Vehicles stored this way can remain in their cocoons for as long as 20 years without deteriorating. The atmosphere inside the cans is scientifically controlled. A starting device, which is triggered by blonde human hair, keeps the dehumidifier working. The human hair, which must be blonde, say the experts, tightens as the atmosphere in the can changes and automatically starts the dehumidifier. By signs and posters, soldiers and government employees are constantly being reminded of the Army's cost consciousness campaign. Army equipment and vehicles are tagged with their price to further the money-saving drive. Another of the Army's big money-saving items is the preventive maintenance packing given to equipment before shipment. Equipment going to the Arctic gets a tinfoil covering as well as a coat of grease preventive to stop rust. All items for export are treated with a special grease compound mixture and are packed in special preventive wrappings to ensure their arrival in good working condition. The Army today, dutifully aware of its responsibilities to the tax-paying people of America, is on guard against waste. Everywhere, the Army continues its war of salvage. In this battle, there will be no ceasefire.
America today faces a new problem. It faces the problem of purchasing insurance for peace for the first time in its peacetime history. We are people who believe in insurance. We are likewise people who believe in getting the most for the dollar. That is how America has grown to the great nation that it is today. As Secretary of the Army, I am dedicated to the proposition that we will get more for the taxpayer's dollar. That means that we'll get more fighting power for every Army dollar that's spent. Expressed in simple terms, it means that if a soldier turns off a light button that might otherwise be on, it means that if he stops a motor that's running, if he protects a rifle that he might otherwise lose, that means that somewhere in the world there is more equipment for those who are fighting for the forces of freedom. That's why we have a cost consciousness program and have had one for over a year that identifies in every soldier's mind the fact that he is a taxpayer as well as a soldier. That's why we started Operation Red Tape, to try to cut the red tape out of the Army if it's possible. Even more important, that's how we achieve certain measurable savings, such as $8 billion in saving for rehabilitation of old equipment. There are other statements of savings here, but the big point is that I think today the Army as a whole realizes that it's important that it save the taxpayer's dollar, their dollar. In doing so, it means that the insurance for peace can be bought more cheaply in a time when our economy is as important as our national defense.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being our guest on this final program of the current Big Picture series. What you have seen during the past 13 weeks has been a documentation of your Army at work. An Army second to none, dedicated to freedom and the defense of the United States. An Army of men and women, intelligent, trained soldiers whose strength lies in their state of preparedness. An Army of the finest weapons in the world today, backed by science and industry. An Army made of many individual parts, welded together by teamwork. The Army of the United States is your Army, dedicated to the defense of the American heritage from which it was born.